Out he goes. He handed the cage to me and I carried it into the back wing of the house and left it in one of the guest rooms. It seemed the obvious thing to do at the time, but I still have moments when I waken and think of the cheerful little creature, and that by not looking at its seed and water cup I signed its death warrant that day. Perhaps another death warrant too, but that does not bear thinking about. When I came back, the doctor met me in the hall and asked me to stay for a while. Margaret is arranging for the funeral, he said, and all of them have got the inquest to go through tomorrow morning. If you'll be about in case the old gentleman needs anything, it will help. I was astonished, when I went back into Emily's room, to find that she was already asleep. Evidently Margaret had been right, and she had not slept much during the night. That left the upper hall to the policeman and myself. Peggy having disappeared, he had taken a morning paper from his pocket, and sitting on the front window sill, was doing a crossword puzzle. I was about to get a chair from Margaret's room to place outside Mr. Lancaster's door when I heard the men below leave the library and start up the stairs. The inspector came first, followed by Sullivan, the detective, then Mr. Lewis, who nodded to me, and a strange dark man carrying a shabby valise. They were very quiet. They filed along and into Mrs. Lancaster's room, and it was Inspector Briggs who spoke. "That's the box, Johnny." When I tiptoed forward, they were gathered about it, and no one noticed me at all. The dark man, Johnny, produced a bunch of keys, tried them in turn, selected one and filed at it, and then in a businesslike manner stepped back and said, "That does it. All right, Chief." I could not see into the box, but I could see the inspector's face, and I am certain he was disappointed. "All here, apparently," he said. "Is there anybody about to show this to?" "I represent the family," Mr. Lewis said rather pompously. "Ever see this before? Know how much is in it?" "No, but—" "Get somebody, Sullivan." I moved away from the door just in time, and a few minutes later the detective returned with Margaret. She gave a look into the chest, and her expression changed from one of apprehension to relief. "It's there, then," she said. "Well, all I can say is, thank God." The inspector eyed her quickly. "Why? Because now we know," she said. "There was no motive. Someone got into the house, that's all." but Sullivan had bent slightly and was prodding something with a finger. "Any objection to opening one of these bags, Chief?" he asked. Margaret answered, instead. "Not unless my father is present," she said, "and I don't want to disturb him just now." I saw Sullivan and the inspector exchange a glance, but nothing more was said about opening anything. Instead, the inspector asked her about the method used when the money was put into the chest. "It was very simple," she said. "We all disapproved, of course, but sometimes one or the other of us would be in the room. Jim Wellington got the gold for Mother, and currency when gold was scarce. She had accounts in different banks, and most of them would give only a little gold at a time. He brought it out in these bags, and Mother would count it out on the bed. After that she would put the gold back into the sack, and twist the wire around the neck of the sack. Or, when it was banknotes, into one of those brown envelopes. After that, whichever it was, Jim would put it into chest." "How did he do that?" "Well, at first he would put the box on 2 chairs, as it is now. But it got pretty hard. After that he simply dragged it out from under the bed. Mother would give him the key, and he would raise the lid and place the money inside. You don't know how much there is, I suppose?" "Not exactly. Jim said once that $5,000 weighed over 18 pounds, and that he didn't like carrying so much at once anyhow." "Something might happen to it." Then the banks objected, too. He hated the whole business. He brought less at a time after that. He's the only one who would know exactly, if he kept a record, as I'm sure he did.